Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ethos Online. Again, this is a space where we can be, belong, and become the very best version of ourselves. So, again, wherever you're joining us, we want to welcome you, remind you that this is where we do the difficult work. This is where we dig deep. We ask uncomfortable questions. We are willing to deconstruct, reconstruct. Our goal is to show, to bring out, to reveal the beauty of these beautiful, beautiful ancient books. And so, again, we want to remind you, if you want to continue supporting what we're doing, go to the links below where you can continue giving your tax-deductible donations. You can also subscribe there below. All of that is in these little links below. So go to those. Now, we are continuing this series over Genesis. And again, this has been such a fun series for me. I have done series over Genesis in the past where we would go through a couple chapters and then we'd hit warp speed, right? And then we'd kind of skip over a bunch of things, get to the sexy stories, right? And then we'd skip through again. Here, here we actually get to go a little deeper, right? We have time, we have space. This is really good. And so we are covering the book of Genesis. We are going deep into this ancient book. And again, it is not a book, many people get this confused. It doesn't literally, it's not a book about beginning as far as like, this is how the world began, but the idea of Genesis is new beginnings. Yeah, think about that word for a minute. Origins is often, and I even did a whole series called Origins. It's not actually what the Hebraic idea of Genesis is. Genesis, the Hebraic meaning behind this word, means new beginnings, meaning there was like something old, right? Something chaotic, something that was broken before, and you started something new. That's the idea here, new beginnings, Genesis. And so as always, we remind ourselves, Genesis, again, is a compilation of stories, poems, mythopoetic writings. This is a compilation of moments where authors are telling you, hey, be careful, right? Prophetic warnings, right? If you do this and this, you might end up here again. Don't do that thing again. Or moments where like they're essentially telling you, here's where we've gone in the past. Might I give you a suggestion, right? There are many different ways to view this piece, but it's a compilation of many different writing styles, many different ways of essentially sharing a message. That's the idea here, all compiled together. Yeah, and it's not a history book. It was never intended to be a sound, sealed, delivered, perfect date to date, all of the dates fit, never meant to be a history book. That wasn't the point. It wasn't the purpose. These people were in exile. Right? Again, they were brought into Babylonian captivity. They were losing everything, all of their rituals, all their traditions. They were watching as all these other nations lost everything. And they were taking on Babylon's gods. And Israel is the tribe. And this is why we have the Bible still today, right? They were the tribe that stood up to Babylon. They said, we will not let go of the rituals, of the laws, the things that have kept us connected to the divine, connected to each other. We're not going to let that go. We're going to keep our culture. We're going to keep Jewish kosher, right? That's what they're essentially doing here. And so they combine. So Torah is, again, a written response to the idea of assimilation. Really, that's the deeper idea behind even compiling it in general. And it is the thing, right? It is the thing that holds Israel together. It is their compass, Torah. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers. It is the navigational device that leads them to life more abundantly. That is Torah. Yeah, and it's beautiful. And so we say this every week, but Torah is a complete narrative of Israel miniaturized. And I tell people all the time, whenever you read Genesis, whenever you read Exodus, read it through a Jewish lens. Because a Jewish person, what they're doing is they're saying, look, we see ourselves in every story. We are Jacob. We are Moses. We are Abraham. We're Isaac, right? We are these people. So again, whether you take it metaphorically or literal, know as a Jewish reader, they saw themselves in the story so that they could learn to pick up the wisdom and live by the wisdom that the story shared. That's the deeper picture, the meaning behind Genesis being written in the first place. So, moving along, chapter 8. We just moved through 12 verses last week. Today, we're going to move through a couple more. One more reminder, we start with our central protagonist, right? Noah. Noah is the protagonist in the flood story. I don't think anyone's like, oh, wow, like new knowledge, Tony, thank you. But again, Noah, this word Noah, we remind ourselves every time, Noah means to the pause, the calm before the storm. Noah is the one that like stops everyone, ceases. Let's take a breather here. Let's take a breath. Let's re-navigate, right? Let's refocus. Let's set our sights on where we're going, which again, this is why it's written. It is a message to Israel. Yeah. So here we go. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, on the first of the month, that the waters dried up from upon the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and he saw, and behold, the surface of the ground had dried up. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Get out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Every living thing that is with you of all flesh, of fowl, and of animals, and all the creeping things that creep on earth, bring out with you. And they shall swarm upon the earth, and they shall be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and all fowl, everything that moves upon the earth according to their families, they went forth from the ark. So that's a handful, right? 13 through 19, quite a few verses. So let me just touch on a couple points here, a couple phrases that are really important if you're Jewish. When you're reading this, again, many rabbis, what they'll do is they'll just begin to navigate over every verse, but some verses they'll give you some are like maybe a couple paragraphs of interpretation. The ones I look at, these are pages and pages of interpretation. And so the first main one that as a Jewish rabbi, what they would do is they would center on this phrase. This phrase alone would cause Jewish writers, they would have spent hours talking about this one. This is a phrase Israel is very familiar with. This is the phrase. Noah removed the covering of the ark. Now, 21st century, we're like, a big deal. What does that mean? Right? We've skipped over this, right? This is a phrase in this verse we haven't given much time to. Because again, for us, Americans, Australians, wherever you're joining us from, this is not going to have a lot of deep meaning until you understand the context. Understand this, for a Jewish person, when you read Ark, first off, you begin to think of Ark of the Covenant, right? This is where the law, Torah, is placed. Right? The unveiling of the ark. So understand this, when you open the curtain, right? In the temple, they had a curtain that kept them from the holy place in the most holy place. That separated the two. When the curtain is drawn, that essentially means the divine is able to be fully present, seen. That's a big deal, right? And so the thing behind the mystery is the idea, knowing that the deeper truth behind something. This is what this phrase causes when Jewish rabbis and Jewish people in general, when they read it, that's what comes to mind. The mystery is now understood. And so again, it's that moment in The Wizard of Oz, right? When they see the great grand wizard, right? And he's there and he's in all his glory on the screen, but then Toto walks over and he pulls the curtain back, and what do you see? The mystery right there. And unfortunately in The Wizard of Oz, he gets smaller, right? The wizard's not so grand, not so great, not so powerful. For Israel, when you pull the curtain back, it's bigger, it's brighter, it's fuller. The divine is seen. In fact, they would argue that it's so bright, so full, so divine, that if you were to pull the curtain back and see the divine in all the divine's fullness, you would die. It would be too much for you to handle, right? But in this moment, the thing is pulled back. And again, that's why when you look at the New Testament, And after the death of Jesus, it says the curtain was torn in two. The idea here is that the divine was revealed, right? The divine was revealed. We see here the most divine loving act, and it is sacrificing oneself for another, right? The most beautiful act of love one could give. And so again, we see the divine in this action, and it's beautiful. The curtain's torn in two. What is behind the curtain? The ark is unveiled, right? It's uncovered, and now Noah sees the whole thing, sees it for its beauty. So it's almost like this coming to like theaters idea, right? Something's coming. You've looked forward, right? You've been looking forward to the sequel all year of Cobra Kai, right? Or The Mandalorian, whatever show you're watching. I have no idea. The thing's about to happen. There's this moment of intensity. Noah pulls back, opens the ark to see what the divine has done, right? Finally, after the captivity, being stuck in the ark, opens up the ark, opens up the window and sees, wow, like this is what happened. This is how the divine has taken the chaos and created something that we can live in. This is what restoration is finally going to look like. It's opened up and he sees it, right? It's that moment where you've been working so hard at the workout, right? You've been taking pictures all along. And then you go sit down at your computer and you put in week 1 picture, week 2, week 3, week 8, 10, and then you put in the one for today. And you realize, wow, like I have come so far, right? It's opening up the mystery box from Amazon that's sitting in front of your house, right? You don't know what it is. Or maybe you've been waiting for it all this time and you finally get to open it. It's that moment. That's the moment for Israel. When Noah opens the ark, is this beautiful reminder for them. There's going to be a moment. In the middle, you have gone through all the pain, all the captivity, all the brokenness. But Israel, there is a moment where you're going to open the ark and you're going to see where God has been. And in fact, this is how they see the story when Moses goes up onto this mountain. The idea here is God just doesn't come up and be like, hey, Moses, and he hands him the 10 Commandments. No. The idea here is Moses goes up onto this mountain. And the idea here is God passes by Moses. And Moses can only see where God has been. Yeah, it's beautiful. And so in this moment, Noah opens up the ark and he sees where God has been. No, this is good. And this is the idea. And it's really a beautiful one. And it kind of connects, I shouldn't say kind of, it really connects with their idea of tikkun olam, right? The world begins anew. The world, we can finally begin painting color back in it, right? The world begins again. Finally, he again sees the results of all the pain, the deep brokenness Israel has sustained. And finally now, he's able to see the hope right there, the fulfillment of the promise. He's able to see it unfold. He sees what essentially is right before them. There is promise here. You're about to step out and live in the thing. It's beautiful. Let me keep going. It continues on. Noah removed the ark of the cover, and he saw, and behold, the surface of the ground had dried up. The surface of the ground had dried up. There is no more chaos, right? Water. There's no more chaos on the earth. There is peace. There's restoration. The world is ready for you to inhabit. It's cool. The world is able to inhabit. Space has been cleared. It's go. It's go time, right? It is time for you to live fully in the space that God has given you. It's time. You can now take that difficult step forward. And so out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you, everyone must leave the ark. Yeah. The ark, think about this. The ark was a place that many people have gotten used to, right? Babylon was a place that they got comfortable in, right? Egypt becomes a place they're comfortable in. Rome becomes a place they're comfortable in. But there's always a moment There's always a moment in the Israelite story, in the Jewish experience, where God opens up the door after all the pain, all the brokenness, opens up the door and he says, okay, it's time. It's time to enter into the new thing. It's time to leave Egypt, right? Yeah, you've had meat and you've had certain things there, but it's time to leave. You were not meant to live in an ark the rest of your life. You were meant to go out and be fruitful and multiply, right? You were made to go out and experience the world, right? Live in it fully, live life abundantly. You weren't meant to be stuck in the ark. And so freedom here, the idea here is it's wild, it's dangerous, but sometimes, man, it's scary, right? It's terrifying. It's a terrifying step. When you step into the unknown, sometimes you want to just jump back inside, don't you? Yeah, and this is why when Moses leads Israel out, they have moments where they're like, Moses, we were so happy when we were in Egypt. And he's like, wait, what? Right? You have these moments, these flashbacks, like, what am I doing? What have I done? Right? You've left home. Right? I love this picture here. Home, right? You leave home. It's terrifying, but there is also a feeling of excitement, right? It's exhilarating when you're leaving. You've got your bags packed, right? You left. You're going to college. You're going wherever. You're going to that new job. You left, and there's going to be dangers. It's not going to be easy, and you know this. You're about to step forward, Frodo, right? And you're going to experience brokenness, and you're going to experience some knowledge, and you're going to gain some wisdom. It's all unfolding before you. Israel, you are about to grow. You're about to inhabit the thing. And I need you, the divine says, step forward. Don't stay there anymore. Again, this is such a relevant message for them in Babylon, right? You're going to be so tempted to want to stay there, to assimilate. Don't. Step out of the ark. Step away from this place that's held you captive for so long. You've gotten used to your captivity. You've gotten used to your trauma. You've gotten used to these things, right? You've gotten used to an unhealthy diet, whatever the thing is. But now you've seen a new thing, right? You've gone through the difficulty. Don't stay there. Move forward. Move into the next phase of life. Yeah, it's really rather beautiful. Let me keep going. Every living thing that is with you, of flesh, of fowl, of all the animals, all the creepy things that creep on the earth, bring out with you. They shall swarm upon, again, I just love this word, swarm, right? You can just see it, swarm upon the earth. You can almost picture like fast motion just covering the earth. And they shall be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. So first off, you're going to immediately make a connection here because we were just there a little bit ago, right? Genesis chapter 1, you're going to make the connection. Noah, I was talking about Moses now. Noah and Adam and Eve now stand together, right? There's this moment, be fruitful and multiply. Many of us will immediately like, wait, what does that mean? We'll talk about fruitful and multiply. Like, do we have more kids? Does that mean you should have 20 kids? Right? And what about the earth? There's so many resources. Should we all be having 20 kids? Well, maybe we should only have one or two. How do we practice this today? What if you can't have kids? What if you can't be fruitful and multiply? Missing the point. The point of bringing this up, using this verbiage, is that it's verbiage that's been used, right? For Israel, the story of creation and the story of Noah, they're the same story, right? It's the same idea repeated. After the chaos, after the brokenness, when you're called to step forward into the new thing, now you begin to put order and process in place. I have people tell me all the time, I hate politics. And yeah, our political system is a bit of a mess, right? And whether you're an ass or an elephant or wherever you are, most of the time, I think most of us would agree they don't always have our best interests in mind. But here's the thing, politics is not an evil thing. Politics is about ordering life. Politics isn't actually a really good thing. We need political systems in place. Now, how we choose to practice those, how we choose to order it, That's where the rub is. And so, how will you order the new life? Now that you've stepped away from the ark, you left the safety of the ark, you've outgrown it. Now that you've stepped forward, right? Now that you've stepped into the new, the question, of course, is going to be, how are you going to order the new life? How will you paint the blank canvas in front of you? What will you do with it? This is that idea here. It's the same story. We learn to order life again. We learn to add a ritual and texture to the canvas again. And it is really difficult, but it's also so fun. I think of my own experience over and over again in my life. Moments where I had the most fun is when I got to reorder life. I got to paint on a new canvas. And man, you make some mistakes, don't you? But boy, that creative process was so fun. And I think in these moments, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of anxiety. But if we keep in mind it's about ordering, it's about creating new, it's about stepping into the new and living it fully, that's, I think, going to keep us afloat. That's going to keep us moving in a direction toward life, right? This last part, they went forth from the ark. Again, they took the terrifying step forward. They bravely looked back, realized we outgrew it, right? The sweater no longer fits. They stepped forward into the new. And so, again, I think of babies, right? Babies. Think about a baby for a moment. A baby, if they had a choice, right? They're so comfortable and warm inside mom. Everything's taken care of, right? There's no pain in there. They're just relaxed and they're chilling. But baby needs to come out, doesn't it? If baby were to try to stay inside, they would miss life, wouldn't they? They would miss all the beauty of taking your first breath, your first steps, your first bike ride, eating banana pudding. Come on, banana pudding. They would miss all of this beauty. They'd miss it if you stayed there in the safety of the womb. Yeah, you'd miss it. Taking the new job, right? Think about how many of us, we took the new job. And looking back, we're so thankful we did, but boy, was it scary. Boy, was it uncertain. Meeting new friends, right? Some of us were terrified to meet new people. And sometimes I think just taking that step forward, reaching out your hand, saying, hi, my name is, right? Taking that step forward, introducing yourself. Years later, you look back and say, I am so grateful for the place that took me to. I'm so grateful for the friendships I have because I chose not to stay in the ark. I stepped forward, right? You read you took on the new hobby. You read the book. Now you've got a garden. You get my point. You stepped forward. You did the difficult thing. You bravely tried something new. And for Israel in this moment, it is such a defining, important one for them. Stepping away from Egypt, stepping away from Babylon, stepping away from this place they've gotten comfortable in. Stepping out takes courage. And for Israel right here, as they read this piece, these verses, there's a deep challenge for them. Will we have the courage to step forward? Because if we do, there is new life waiting to be had. Will you be courageous or will you stay in the boat? What will you do? So the question, of course, is how do you take it home, right? Finding courage to try new things. I love this idea. How do we find courage to do this stuff, right? What do we do? What are some steps we can take? Here's some steps we can take from a couple experts I really enjoy. One of them is Timothy Ferriss. Always trying new things. So here's a couple ideas that I think are really important that could be helpful. Number one, remind yourself that fear is not always helpful, right? Yes, fear is helpful when like a bear comes charging at you. That's probably a good thing for you to say, oh, wait, what should I do here? If you just stand there with, looking like a meat popsicle, you're not going to do fairly well, right? Fear is there to help us instinctually live, right? But fear is not always helpful in these moments when we're about to take a step forward. And so if we respond to every fear-inducing situation like we're in mortal danger, we are going to end up missing out on really valuable opportunities in life. So remind yourself, fear is not always helpful. I don't always have to be sitting in fear, right? Am I avoiding pain or am I seeking growth? Ask those questions of yourself. Number two, uh, expand your comfort zone. Expand your comfort zone. And this, again, is a day-to-day process, and you're more likely to experience success in this area if you focus on like expanding your comfort zone one at a time. Yeah, you can't just jump at it and say, I'm going to be this person and pave through 8 of these things. No, one step at a time, right? One step at a time. Getting out of that comfort zone for you, if you're terrified of meeting new people, it might be as simple as just going to the mall and saying, I'm going to say hello to maybe 2 or 3 people today. I'm just going to say hello. I'm not going to meet new people. I'm just going to say hello. That might be your first step. Whatever it is, take steps. It's going to take baby steps. Number 3, take a step back and get objective, right? Be objective. To boost your courage, try to stay objective. Focus on the facts of the matter. This one's really important. Pay attention to what actually happened rather than all of the meaning that we're so good at attaching to it, right? That's the idea. Take a step back. Be more objective in what you're doing. Think about that. That's really helpful. And last one is take action. I think take action is, again, in almost everything we do. Take action. The only thing that will help you feel more courageous is to finally do what Israel did. You put your foot forward and you, like last week, you do it, right? You step forward. You step out of the comfort zone. You send yourself a message. You are a courageous person. You do the thing. You step forward. You step out of the ark. You have to take that step lastly, or the thing doesn't work, right? To be courageous, you've got to finally just do the thing. You've got to take action. Everyone, I love this. This was so fun for me. Donations-wise, please consider going to ethos-church.org/donate. This has been a rough year for nonprofits, right? This past year. And so we would ask that you please continue supporting what we're doing. These messages are reaching people, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, wherever people are finding it, it is reaching people. And so we get messages a lot of, this is what it meant to me. Thank you for this. A question about that. This is helping people, and we're so thrilled to be a part of it. Again, our goal is we want people to see the beauty of Genesis right now. We want people to see the application of it, the context of it. There's so much there. And when you begin to delve into this, you can also be a part of our Ethos living rooms. You can begin donating to keep these communities together, right? Twice a month, we come together online from all over the place. And right now, many people are still locked down in their cities. And we're saying, be a part of this community. And we're getting many different people from all over coming together. If you want to join us, please consider doing that. It's so much fun. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We'd love to see our YouTube channel begin growing in the new year. And everyone, we'll see you next week as we continue moving through this series of Genesis. Take care. We'll see you.